So what is your time worth? Hey guys, it's Brad. Welcome back to another video. So today I want to talk about a situation of a deal that we reviewed. Actually, I just got notification that the property had just sold just now. And what I want to talk about is understanding what your time is worth. So this particular property we had received as a lead in November of 2023. And this property was an estate property. Estate owned it. A brother and sister had inherited this property from their parents. Their mom and dad had lived in this house. Their dad had passed away, and then their mom lived there for a little while, and then she passed away. And they wanted to basically sell this property, right? I can't remember where the brother lived. I knew the sister lived relatively close by, within about a 15-minute drive, but the brother lived kind of much further distance away from this property. This property was in a nice part of town, in a very nice neighborhood, relatively newer house. It was built in 2006, if I recall correctly. So newer construction. It was in a cul-de-sac, pretty decent sized house, just your typical suburban house here in Atlanta where I live, right? And well cared for. Mom and dad had taken good care of the house overall. From a maintenance perspective, the house was well maintained, but the house was a little dated. It still had the 2006 kind of paint colors in the house, the yellows and the reds and the greens, which today in 2024, those would be considered kind of very bold colors and not really in. Right now in 2024, a lot of people are doing a lot more whites. We went through the grays for a little while. The grays are kind of on their way out, almost out. Now people are doing whites, and we're actually sort of transitioning back to some of the more earthy tones, those sort of colors. But right now it's more of a white, more whites, very light and bright, most houses. So in today's standards, that house could be considered some of the rooms could be considered very dark, like a red dining room. You guys probably remember in 2006, 2005, 2007. I remember my house in 2007 that I bought brand new, the model home had a red dining room, and the green, like the house was green and yellow, and those were kind of the colors back then. But today those are not the colors. Anyways, and this house needed new carpet. The carpet was the original carpet in the house. Mom and dad kept it clean. There were no stains in the carpet or anything like that. They didn't have pets. The carpets were worn, right? They were 20-year-old carpets, thereabouts, right? It's 2024 now. The house was built in 2006. Or 18-year-old carpet, right? The carpet was just kind of worn out. It needed to be replaced, but again, didn't have any stains or anything like that. Appliances were kind of older, needed to be updated, and it had granite countertops in the kitchen, but it was that granite that they had would be considered dated now. Those dark colored granites. Everybody's doing kind of lighter stuff. So anyways, that's a description of the house, right? So they had called us to make an offer on this house. We went out to the house and looked at it. This was in November of 2023. And we looked at the house and said, hey, look, here's your options, right? We'll buy it cash today for $320,000 cash. Just to give you an example, at the time, I estimated that if you were to just put the house on the market today and just list it as is, you're probably going to get like a buyer that's got FHA financing. Again, this was 2023. So after the market shifted and interest rates shot up in 2022, a lot of buyers are asking for closing cost contributions, whereas before that, there was a period of a number of years where you weren't, as a seller, you weren't having to pay any closing costs to the buyers. The market was so hot, the interest rates were so low that buyers really weren't asking for closing cost contributions. But as the market shifted in fall of 2022 and interest rates shot up, in fact, interest rates rose so much and so quickly. That's actually the fastest and highest recording interest rate increase in residential mortgages in that short a period of time ever in history. It's never gone up that much that quickly. Like that, it's gone up. The rates have gone higher than that, but the speed in which interest rates shot up in fall of 2022 was very, very fast. And it basically slammed the brakes on the market so much that in fall of 2022, year over year from 2022 to 2023, we actually, in the Atlanta market where I personally live, I invest and buy properties all over the US. But in Atlanta metro, we saw a 2.5% decrease in prices. So values actually went down year over year. And then from 2023 to 2024 to today, prices are up about 4%. So basically, if you compare, we're up 2% over what we were in before that time. So anyways, this house, at the time, I estimated if you were to list it as is on the market, I would list it at $399 as is, like in its current condition. Just have a clean. The house had some personal belongings in it, some junk in it. I wouldn't say junk; it was the family stuff, but it needed to be emptied out. And just send a cleaning person in the house and do a really good deep cleaning of the house. And also we told them, said, look, I had mentioned, hey, we could list this house for you, because I'm also a licensed real estate agent with One Source in Woodstock. We offered to list the house and said, here's our cash offer. Our cash offer is $320. We'll buy it as is today, zero due diligence. We'll close in 2 weeks, $320K. We'll buy it as is, right? At the time, I said I'd list it for $399, but I told them, I said I would expect to get offers in the range of $390 to $399 based on the value of this from a buyer. Plus, you're going to have to pay 6% in real estate commissions. Plus, they're probably going to ask for some closing costs. So go ahead and factor in 10% right off the top. Or, well, it's really 9%, right? 6% in real estate commissions, and then typically buyers are asking for 3% in closing costs. So right off the bat, you're going to knock $25,000 off of that, right? So if they had listed the property with me and we put it on the market just as is and didn't do anything to it other than just have a cleaning person come in and just clean it and remove some of the remaining personal belongings out of the house and just have it empty, right? You're talking basically a net of, let's say we got an offer for $390, you're talking like a net of $360-ish, $365, somewhere in there is what they would net if they listed it. And I always tell people, if you list the house, you're going to get more money. But my cash offer is the easy price today, right? Here's your easy number. I'll give you $320,000 cash today. We'll close in 2 weeks. I won't have any due diligence, no questions asked. We will buy it in 2 weeks for this price. Like, done. You can consider the house sold, right? In that case, I did give a zero due diligence offer on that. Sometimes I will do due diligence, sometimes I won't. In this case, it was a pretty decent house. I didn't foresee any major issues happening with that house because the only major issue with that house was 2006 is they originally had an Atlas roof, Atlas chalet shingles. That was a thing back in 2006, 2007, but that roof had been replaced with a newer roof. So really that was the only kind of big variable that might go wrong with the house. And they had since replaced the HVAC systems a few years ago. So that wasn't a concern. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy it. You know, $320 as is cash. And some people will say, well, you're lowballing them. Not really. Like, that's an easy offer, right? It's just like you go to the car dealership, right? The car dealer is going to, let's say your car is worth $35,000. The dealership, if they resold that car, is going to list that car for $35,000. They're going to sell it on their lot. You're coming in, you're trading that car in, you're buying a new car today. They're probably going to offer you like $30,000 for your car, right? So they're taking money off of that, and they're going to clean it, detail it, whatever. Maybe they have to replace a windshield because there's a crack or whatever, right? And then they're going to put that car back out on the lot, and they're going to sell it for $35,000. We do the same thing with houses, right? I have to make a profit. I do this for a living to make a profit, right? But in this case, I offered to list the house for him. I said, I'll put on my agent real estate hat, and I will list this house for you, but I would list it today for probably $399, and I would expect to receive offers somewhere in the 390s ballpark, which should net you 360s net at the end of the day after you pay all the costs and stuff. And I also said I would also anticipate maybe the buyer asking you to replace the carpet. The carpet was very worn, and again, it wasn't stained, but it was worn. I would anticipate them asking you as part of the closing to replace the carpets, which is another $5,000 based on the size of the house, another $5,000 thereabouts, maybe $4,000 to $5,000 to replace the carpet. So just understand that. Now we're in like a high 350s to 360s, what they would net at the end of the day, right? And they'd have it done in 2 weeks, be done with it, move on with life. Well, they chose not to accept our offer. And also, if they had gone in and kind of repainted the whole house, replaced all the carpet and updated all the light fixtures, replaced the 2006 kind of, back then it was the very like ornate, not even a bronze, because oil rub bronze came about a little bit later, but like, I guess a lighter bronzy, like, it's hard to explain it, but those were the light fixtures in the house. Update those with kind of newer fixtures, either like a brushed nickel or a matte black is what we're doing in most properties now, is matte black fixtures. Oil rub bronze is out now. Nobody's doing that anymore. It's either matte black. People do gold. I don't do gold in my properties. Personally, I hate gold. I think it's so ugly. But to each his own. I do matte black most of the time, or brushed nickel, because brushed nickel is very neutral. It goes with anything and everything. It's timeless. Matte black. Also, I think matte black looks nice in my personal house. I've got matte black fixtures, and it looks very nice. So anyways, we said, hey, you're going to want to do these things. And if you did all those things, that house would probably be worth somewhere in the ballpark of $430,000 to $440,000. But I told them, I said, if I were going to do all that, I would list it at $430,000, maybe even $425,000, just to kind of spur the market, So they said, okay, cool, They decided not to accept our cash offer and not to accept the listing. They decided to go list the property with a friend of a friend, because everybody knows a real estate agent, right? Everybody and their brother has a friend or a family member or somebody that's a real estate agent. Everybody and their brother has their real estate license. Everybody and their brother and their sister, right? They all have their real estate license, right? So they decided to list with someone that they knew. No harm, no foul. Cool. I gave them the numbers. We're always honest and transparent with everyone we talk to. And I said, this is what the house would be worth. This is a nice house. It just needs a couple things and it could get to that point. Or you can list it as is for $399 and it would probably sell. So they didn't take our offer. They listed the house on the market. They went in and actually, they repainted the whole inside of the house like we told them to do. And they replaced the carpet and they replaced some light fixtures. So all in, they probably spent, I would say, between painting the inside, outside, fixtures, all that, they probably spent at least $20,000, probably 20 grand, right? Okay. They listed the house with their agent friend, and their agent friend overlisted the house. They listed the house for, what was the number? Here, I got it on my phone here. They made the mistake, which I get it. Some people make these mistakes, but you can't, in this market we're in right now, you cannot overlist a property. You have to list it a little bit low. Otherwise, it's going to sit on the market. You got to spur that sort of competitiveness. This is a great looking house. I'm looking at it right now. What did they list the property at? So they listed it in January of 2024 for $439,999. So they listed it $10,000 over what I thought they should list it for, right? Their agent listed it for that. Well, guess what happened? The house sat and it 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 sat. And finally, it sold just now, this week. It closed in July of 2024. So it took them 7 months to sell that house. 7 months. And what did the house sell for? The house finally sold for $430,000, and they had to pay closing costs to the buyer, and they put all this money into updating all the things, and they made $430,000. So at the end of the day, after their closing costs and all that net, they ended up netting about $300,000. If you do the math, they probably spent $20,000 total on rehab, and then let's say 430 times 0.91. So that's 391 less 20. So their net was $370,000. Okay. So from a dollar standpoint, they made more money, right? And we always tell people, you will make more money if you do this. So they made they probably netted $370,000 at the end of the day after putting the money in. The brother and sister spent money in updating the house or whatever. But the thing is the property took 7 months to sell because they overpriced it. In 10,000 is not that much, but right now in this market today, that matters. In fact, we're listing things a little bit lower than we think it'll actually sell for. And that's our strategy right now when we're listing properties is if I think it'll sell for 430, I would have listed that house for 420. And it probably would have sold for 430 because then people see, oh, like this looks like a good deal. And you get these competitive offers and everybody's bidding on it or whatever. And that's what ended up happening with this property. It sat, it took 7 months to sell it. So my question to them is, was it worth it? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, right? But we're now at how many more months? Because we first spoke to them at the beginning of November of 2023, first week of November. So if they had accepted our offer, then we would have closed by before Thanksgiving in November, right? They would have had the property sold, cash in their pocket before Thanksgiving in November. And I would have done the same thing they did. I would have spent about $25,000. I would have fixed it up and I would have relisted, but I would have relisted the house for $420,000 on the market and I probably would have already had it sold by now. It probably would have sold, so let's say we bought it in November, we had Thanksgiving, Christmas. I probably wouldn't have even got it ready to sell till probably Christmas time, right before Christmas. And the market's really slow around that time of year. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas and the end of the year, the market's just really, really slow. Nobody's looking at houses. They're worried about the holidays, whatever. So it would have been slow, but we would have probably not even listed it until after Christmas just because of the slowness of the market. And I would have listed it for 420 and it probably would have sold very quickly within a month or two because I listed it lower, not higher. So my question to them is, was it worth it? Maybe it was. You made more money in your pocket, but was your time worth it? You put all that time, you had to manage those contractors. It took you 7 months to sell that property. So here you are 7 months later, you finally got the money. I remember there was a mortgage on the property. So you got mortgage payments in there. They paid, 7 more months of mortgage payments in that time period, right? So was it worth it to them? I don't know. Only they can decide that, and only you can decide that. So if you have a property that you've inherited, or maybe you didn't inherit, maybe you just own it and you're thinking about listing it, you have to think about these things, right? What is your time worth? Do I want to keep paying on the property on my mortgage for another, 7 months and pay more interest or whatever? Do I want to have to manage a contractor for 3 or 4 weeks and get all this stuff and call all these people and get all these bids and do all this? Maybe you do. You will make more money if you do that. Absolutely, 100%. You will make more money if you do that. But is that worth your time? Should you spend your time and effort doing that? And only you can decide that answer. So if you've got a property that you're interested in selling, we'd be happy to make you an offer on that property. You can click on the link below. It'll take you to our website. You can fill out the form there on our website, or when you get on your website, there's a phone number at the top. You can pick up the phone and call us. I appreciate you checking out this video today, and we'd love to make you an offer on your property. If you want to sell it, we can do the easy button. If you're in Georgia, I can list the property for you. Again, I'm a real estate agent with One Source in Woodstock. Or if you're not in Georgia and you're anywhere else, right? I've got agents that I work with all over the country that can help you get your property sold. So I'd be happy to refer you to one of those agents that I know. So thanks again for checking out this video. I'm Brad. I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.